Hello everyone and welcome to another live harp lesson. Let me know if you can hear me okay. If you're watching this live, let me know if you can see everything and say hello if you want to. It would be really nice to hear and see any comments if you are joining in live. I can see already people joining in on Instagram. Let's give a moment to Facebook. Even if you don't watch it live, you can let me know how you like my Christmas jumper. And there is no wrong or right answers, but just to let you know that I will be deleting any silly comments and any other answers, which will be any answers other than we love it as much as you do. So please be aware of that. For those of you who are here for the first time and are wondering what's this silly thing with the harp in the background, this is another one of my series of mini harp tutorials. My name is Zuzanna and I'm a harp teacher and harpist based in Edinburgh, Scotland, and every week I do a Facebook Live or Instagram Live every Friday where I share mini bits of knowledge about playing the harp. Thank you for your comments. I'm glad to hear that you love the jumper. I'm sure you can still get them in the shops. Today's topic in our mini tutorial will be a bit more relaxed because it's Christmas very soon. It will be the last Facebook and Instagram Live before Christmas, and I'm sure anyone who loves stationery as much as I do will really enjoy watching that live because it's all about harp accessories and accessories which will be useful in your practice. Let me just check my notes, and in the meantime you can let me know if you're a stationery lover as I am. I think many harpists are. And just checking because I've got a lot to say today. Oh yeah, important message for those of you who are into getting some free materials for this Facebook Live. You can download them through the link in the description of this live. For Instagram I will update the link, it will be in the bio, but you can already go to the resources and click the latest live harp lesson, leave your email to download the PDF file. This will be a very cool one and I will explain everything a bit later. The very first thing that we're starting from is today. Today is just a bit of an overview what you need when you play the harp, what's essential, what's not. So of course when you're learning you will want to have the harp. Usually harp comes with a tuning key, so that's another essential which should be normally with your instrument. You may want to have a tuner or a tuner app and a music stand like the one which sometimes obstructs the view like that. It doesn't have to be a big solid one like this one. The cheap music stands can be found from £10 or even less. So these are a few essentials, and what I'm talking about today, all the stationary bits are considered for most people non-essentials, but I think especially if you're liking colors, if you want to make to give yourself some more visual hints, that would be a really cool thing for you to have. So 3 things that make a huge difference, at least to me in my harp playing, and I can see that they do make difference to my students. The very first thing is you may want to have a notebook, especially if you're having harp lesson with someone. But even more if you're not attending harp lessons, if you're learning harp on your own, having a notebook where you can note your progress, where you can make a note of what you practiced, which beats in your piece are still needing some more work, which beats worked okay. You can put there metronome markings as well if you use metronome. This is all a really good help, just being able to see what you've been doing the day before. I think we all overestimate how many things we can fit in our memory, and this is a great help in remembering what you want to do. And also when you sit down at the harp, you perhaps had a long day, you were feeling tired, instead of making that mental energy effort, which can be a lot of effort on some days, thinking what am I going to play, what do I have to practice, trying to remember, trying to plan things. You open the notebook and there it is, what you worked on last time, and you can see clearly what you've worked on before. Especially important, as I said, if you're doing that on your own, because then you have to kind of be your own teacher, so writing those things down will be really helpful. With all my students I try to do it in different ways. Some of them have notebooks and then I write everything in the notebook, which I think is very nice because then you can go back and see everything in one place. For those who don't have notebooks, I usually make an e-note that I send them via an email. So I write things down in the lesson on my iPad, saving paper, and then that gets sent on the email. So in a way, you still have everything together in your email. Some people choose to print those PDFs out and put them in one folder. I think that also works very well, but having some kind of record is a nice thing to have when you're learning. These are actually my own notebooks from the time where I studied at the Guildhall for the 2 years of my master's degree. When I studied in Poland, my teacher for the undergrad didn't really like using notebooks. I think my very first harp teacher was. I think that's where I got that idea from. And I really like that, and as you see, I kept them both. I really liked Moleskine notebooks. I don't know why, I was quite a poor student, but I still spent out to get this nice paper and these nice colored notebooks with which close nicely and have also space to put some other things inside. And to this day, when I'm playing, for example, Debussy dances, I think this is in that notebook. As you can see, I've got some index tabs that show me what was I working on. Oh yeah, here I've got Forêt, Impromptu, if I ever want to play that again. I've got all my notes here in the red notebook sitting on the shelf, so it's very useful if you need to revisit a piece or if you want to play a piece again. Highly recommended. I'll just see what comments you're sending. Hello to everyone who's saying hello, and I saw some likes on Facebook. Thank you very much. That's a good sign to know that everything is working okay. So notebook is a one thing, especially if your teacher is into notebooks. If not, if they are not too keen or there is too much time, too much things to do in the lessons, you can always still have your own notebook and use that time after the lesson to write things down. And sometimes we don't feel like practicing right after the lesson, but putting things into a notebook is a good thing to make us remember what was happening there, be prepared for the next practice session. Next things actually, sticky tabs, also known as index note, or I think they are also called tabbing stickers. Well, anything which looks like that is about this size, which can go onto your music and which is semi-transparent, so you can write things on and you can still see the music underneath. They are a really good help, and if you are really sensitive to visual hints, then you can also invent a system for what color means what in your music. For example, me myself, I use a lot of pink, which is something I use for the pedals, to see the pedals very clearly. If I see a pink tab, that means that there is something to do with my feet that I have to remember of. I also was going through some orchestral parts of mine recently, and I saw that there was a lot of blue, and I think blue was to make sure that I revised that place in those last few moments before the concert or before the rehearsal. There were supposed to be a few places where I would like to go over them again. So yeah, this is a really great way. You can also put a circle around the note on the sticky tab, so you're not circling all the notes in there if there's anything that you need to remember. One thing to be cautious of is that with some types of paper, if you remove the sticky tab very quickly, you can actually have a bit of paper sticking to it and then possibly take some of your music off with the sticky tab. So just make sure that you're checking what's happening underneath when you remove them. Another good way of using sticky tabs that I saw a friend of mine, Olivia, who's also a harp teacher, using, was that the sticky tabs were put in tricky places which needed more attention. And then when those places were fine, the sticky tabs were removed, so you were gradually working your way through a very colorful score, and then at the end you were facing again a clean music, which I think was a very neat idea of working your way through, and quite an accurate description of how that work on your practice is really working, because then you can always put them back again if any of the places get tricky again. And then you can just rework as if you were weeding out a garden, making sure that everything is working. So just quite a useful visual clue. This is a new set of sticky tabs. They are about £1, maybe even less than £1, depends where you buy them. Just make sure that they are semi-transparent, because some of the ones that you can see on on Amazon or on online shops they are not transparent, and then it's a bit hard because you can't see the music underneath. You can use them maybe to make notes on top of your piece, but not really in the music. So another handful thing, I'm just going to check my notes to say if there's anything else. Yeah, being careful when removing them, I told that already. And then the last thing, or even two things, I had that idea. Well, when I was preparing for that live, actually, I was thinking that I would be talking about some apps which are useful for learning to play the harp, like tuning apps, of course, something I use every day to tune the harp, metronome apps, and I was also looking at some apps for learning to read the music. And I didn't look at too many of them. Maybe there are some out there which are really good ones. If you know such apps, please let me know in the comments. I will be really keen to check it out. I wasn't quite satisfied with the apps because the way they worked, you were shown a note and then you were supposed to pick the name of the note by pressing the buttons. And I know that you can also transfer it to the harp. You can pick the note on your phone, then play it on the harp. But it seemed that the connection between seeing the note and then pressing those buttons was not quite intuitive. And also I think that there is a danger when you have your phone with you when you're practicing, that you will see some notifications coming up, that you will remember to check something. So normally I would suggest putting your phone away is a better way to have an effective, productive practice session. So I remembered how I was learning languages, and also many people still use them to this day, the flashcards designed specifically for music. So here, for example, I know you can not see it very well because it's in pencil, but the note that it's here is on the third space from the bottom, or maybe like that, and this is C. So you've got that note there on that side, and then on the other side you can write down, I know you can't see very well again because this is in pencil, but if you looked at it closely, then you would see that this is C. Let me see if I can make it a bit more clear. Yeah, so what you could do is mix them all together. You will find these flashcards ready to print in the PDF for today's lesson. There are you can print as many copies as you want, but there are 5 empty spaces in the treble clef, 5 empty spaces looking for the bass clef, and you can either fill in only the notes that you know that you've got problems with, for example, any ledger lines, anything really outside of the stave, or you can just put all of them in there, and you can just write them in the way you want. You can write them as semi-briefs, that's what I've done today. You can write them in as crotchets, quavers, whatever you're working on. If you fancy, you can also have them in the color of the string, so you can make your C's red and your F's blue. And then what I would do, I would put them in a bag, mix them well, and then you would draw just one after another. You can have them in a bag, you can have them in a box, and I would put them on the music stand and play. I see G, I play G, and then I'm checking afterwards which note was that. It can go back to the bag, it can go away from the bag if you've done it correctly. And later, when you're more confident with different notes, you can draw more than one. You can maybe draw, let me see how many I've got here. 1, 2, I've got 3. Let me put them all on the music stand. So I've got 2 bass clefs and a treble clef. So what I'm going to play will be F, B, and G. Quite a nice one. And then I can turn the pages. That was F, that was B, and that was G in the treble clef. Yeah, so that's one way, just mixing them in a bag. But if you're new, or you want to have a really good revision of your music reading skills, then I've got another suggestion for you, and you will also find all the necessary accessories for that in the PDF. So that's something that I was inspired to create by remembering how I was learning languages again. I was using flashcards by one particular company called Fishkey, and they had this great system of organizing the elements that you know already, the words that you know, and separating them from the ones that you don't know that well. So if you print out those, you can put them, they are about the right size to be put in any business card divider or a box. Here I've got a Tupperware box because I haven't got any business cards boxes. So the way it works, you've got number 1, which is red, then you've got number 2, orange, number 3 is yellow, I hope you can see, and then number 4 is green, and you put them inside the box. These will be your dividers, and then you've got all your notes here, all your flashcards. When you're starting out and you feel that they are not very familiar, or you just want to have a really good go at all of them, you can put them all in front of the red divider and then go through them and decide whether they will stay in that very first compartment or whether they will carry on. So for example, we've got here C. Let's say that I can tell really well that this is C, maybe it's colored in red and it gave me a good hint. I'm putting it in the orange divider, in the orange section. Let me see if I can show that to you. So that's red and here is orange, so that lands here in the orange bit. Then I'm drawing the next note. This is also C in the treble clef, but let's say that I couldn't quite tell what it was. I confused it with E in the bass clef and I didn't quite get it, so that goes back behind the red divider. Everything else is in front so we don't get confused, but here is my red, this is where that will go. And then you carry on with everything else. You don't have to do all of them at once, especially if there's a lot of them, you might be a bit overwhelmed, so you can just stop there, leave them there, and the next day you would start from the ones which are at the very front, move them to the dividers where they need to be. So let's say that this all lands in red because we don't know it that well. Let me try to put it in red. And then the rest of it, let's say that you passed the exam and you put them into the orange section. Here is our orange and I'm putting them in here. Then you go again to revise whatever is in the orange part. Sorry, not orange, the red part. We're always starting from the very basic. So those elements that you weren't quite sure of will have another go at them, which means that you're reinforcing things that you've learned in one go. So again, whichever ones you feel that you've learned already, they go into the orange part, and then those that you weren't quite sure of go into back into the red part. Sorry Instagram, it paused because of low battery, but here we're back again. So that goes back into that part. And then you carry on. You always start from the first one, so you always start from the red. You move anything that needs to be moved to the next part, which would be orange. Then you go through the orange section if there's anything in there. And if you can't quite tell what in the orange part, then those notes would go back to the red section to be revised again. Any ones which pass their exam go to the yellow, and then you carry on like that. So in whichever section, whatever can't be guessed goes back to the very first one, and whatever you recognize, whichever cards you feel you know already, are going further and further, so until you finish with all of them in the green, and then you can have one more final revision. Yeah, so if you download the PDF, you've got all the instructions how to print that out, how to cut it, and also a reminder how this system works. You can print it out and have it on your music stand, and if you're working on reading the music, you can just start by having a go at some of these cards. You can also pack them and take them with you to revise on the bus, for example, on your way to work or whenever you're traveling. The way they are done, they are actually folded. Of course, you can tape them here or you can just glue them together, but if you want to transport them easily, I suggest that you tape the bottom and that corner, and then you can have your flashcards going in there, so you always know which cards are under which color. Quite neat, and I think I'm actually quite inspired to go back to those with revising my French. It was such a funny thing to remember that, and I'm really glad that I did. So here's that, a little Christmas present for you, a DIY for you, or maybe for another person that you know that are learning to read the music. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you ever tried flashcards for music or for anything else. I only know flashcards from the languages and from the music, but maybe there are some other uses that I don't know of. Sorry, Instagram battery is going to go soon. I don't see any more comments. You can always ask questions about what you see. Even if you're rewatching, you can still put your comments and your questions, and I will answer them as soon as I see them after the live. The video from the live will be on the website for those of you who are watching on Instagram and didn't manage to catch everything if you were running late or anything. And I think it wouldn't be a pre-Christmas live if I didn't play any Christmas songs, and I actually had a bit of a maybe slight panic this morning because I realized, oh gosh, I've got the Christmas jumper, I haven't got any Christmas songs to play. But then I remember, hey, Susanna, well, this year you've published some Christmas songs and they are all ready to go, so perfect, no need to be scared again of being asked to play any Christmas songs suddenly. So this one is called Hey Ho on the Christmas Day. That's my translation of the original Polish title, which is Hej w Dzień Narodzenia. This is a carol which says what happens on the Christmas day, what are the I forgot the name for that person, what are the shepherds doing, that's the name, how they are meeting the Jesus and what kind of fun they are having dancing and singing. Let me play that to you. If you're planning to learn this one, you're best off starting with right hand on its own, because right hand has some four-finger fingerings and turns, so make sure you mark your placing and that you practice your placing slowly with the right hand on its own. I'm making the rhythm a bit more dotted than it is written in the music. When you're practicing, try to make the rhythm really slow, work out the rhythm really slowly and clearly, so going 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and so on. Try not to make it too dotted straight away. And left hand needs to move on to the next chord as soon as you can find it. So try making sure that left hand finds its way really easy and is really confident on what it's doing. Most of the times the thumb will be on that middle E or just below, so that should be easy. As long as you hang on to the thumb, you will be fine. The carols are still on my website. I can put the link in the description of the live on the website and in the bio. And I'll quickly check the comments before I go. Hello to everyone who joined. Lisa says, I like the flashcard idea. Have used them for other things throughout the years. Yeah, I'm curious to hear what other things have you used them apart from harp. I'm sure they have many uses, the flashcards. And thanks for the song. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite ones, but I always say that about any of the one that I'm playing here. So I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it. Finally, Merry Christmas to you all. I know that this time of the year can be difficult for many reasons, because of seeing people that you haven't seen for a while, for all the possibly tricky relationships to navigate in the family. And I understand all that. Just make sure you're gentle to yourself and that you find something that you're enjoying to do this Christmas, even if you feel like you would rather stay in bed and not hear the word Christmas at all and just wake up when everything is done. Just make sure to take care of yourself. I think it's a good idea to give yourself a nice present. It doesn't have to be expensive, just taking care of you, making maybe buying yourself a nice tea. That's something that I will be doing to show myself the appreciation for that long year and whatever good or challenging things it has brought. And I hope you have someone to enjoy your Christmas with, because it always makes it better. If not, hopefully you will find a way to spend that time enjoying your own company, which is also quite important. Wishing you all the best. The next live will be actually just after Christmas. So those of you who are not at work just yet and have a bit more time, you are most welcome to join me on 27th of December, Friday, at the same time, 11 a.m. UK time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.